We have all commissioners are present and accounted for. So this session is being audio recorded, just like every other P and Z Commission meeting. Please be advised that today we're also recording the video as well. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will keep video of themselves on throughout the meeting. During public hearings, all normal rules, including stating and spelling of your name, apply. Please use the chat feature or raise your hand to speak and you will be recognized. All right, so let's get right into it. And the roll call, all 7 commissioners are here. And so the special meeting minutes of September 8th. Does anyone like to comment on that? Hearing none, do I hear approval? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Yeah, I move approval of the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, special meeting minutes of September 8th are approved. Now, the regular meeting minutes of September 8th. That was at 7 o'clock. That was a rather lengthy meeting, and there was a lot of material there. But it seemed to me like the minutes were in order.
I didn't see anything. I would move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Meeting minutes are approved.
Just a quick question. Are the meetings posted in a machine readable format, like as the native PDF instead of a scan? Or are they only available in the scanned form?
You can find them on the website, the town's website, and probably a bit. I noticed as well that our copy machine is not scanning very well. So maybe I could find a way to get them to the drive from the website.
Okay.
That'd be helpful.
Yikes. Any public communications? From anyone?
Cat just knocked over a hot tea one moment.
So hearing none, let's move on to old business. Application 5A1. This is a public hearing that is still open. Was there someone from Kent School here to comment on this?
Yes, good evening, John Bergen from Kent School, Director of Facilities.
How are you, sir? So I think the last time we were simply concerned about form, and I see that we've got a site plan that that I can understand and is pretty clear about what's happening. So this was submitted for the record. Ty, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that they supplied everything you asked for. They submitted an updated plan. It shows that it's outside of the wetlands. The Housatonic Commission responded saying they had no issue with this. So it's up to you guys now.
Okay, so since it's right on the line, you'll require a as-built, I take it?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, does anybody in the public care to comment on this application? Do you hear a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay, the public hearing is closed, and then we go on to the application. Any further discussion on this? As I said, I think we've been satisfied that they submitted what we wanted. Somebody care to make a motion to accept this application?
Excuse me? They did have
They
a
have
request for waivers, yes. So waivers 2, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, I believe.
Is that list of waivers in the previous month's folder? Do you know, Guy?
Yes, it is.
It
Yes.
must have been, yeah, I didn't see it here.
All right, well, so I'll move that we grant the waivers.
I'll second that.
All in favor, signify by raising your hand. All right, waivers are accepted. And now to the application.
I'll move that we accept and approve application numbers 77-22C and 78-22SP John Bergen for the Kent School, 74 Shattuck Road, map 4, block 3, lot 5, construction of 24-foot by 24-foot modular 2-car garage.
A second.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, application is accepted or approved. All right, so moving on to 5B1. Clarification of baseline of operations and aspirations of Club Getaway, writing of new regulation. So we have had this now on the agenda for some time. And as I said last time, I think what we really need to do is to decide whether we're going to regulate this or whether we're not. This is a pre-existing non-conforming use. It survives, and it always will survive. They submitted a baseline of operations as we asked them to do before this all kind of came into this regulation stuff. You all know how I feel about it. And what I wanted to do is to take a vote on the commission, let the commissioners say, I have a vote, everybody has a vote, whether we think that we ought to leave this alone or whether we go into writing regulations. If we write regulations, it's got to be a serious regulation. We've got to study this, and we've got to be very careful about what we're doing in town. How many properties could be subjected to this, what the sizes are, timing. I mean, this will be something that we have to dwell on. So with that, it's really a yay or a nay. Yay to proceed with some regulations as it was submitted last time, or nay that we should go on and leave this alone, which is an alternative that we can certainly do. So are
we having any more discussion, or are we just going to a vote?
Oh, well, sure, we can discuss this, of course.
Excuse me, I just want to have a brief comment then. I believe this was a defined conforming use until about 2018, when in our planning function, we removed it. I don't think that was I don't think that was a deliberated decision. It was before me, but just briefly before me. Perhaps some of the people in P&Z can say otherwise. But we did have a regulation around this through the fact that the definition was allowed. We could argue it wasn't a great regulation because I don't think there was a lot of detail.
There wasn't.
It was a definition, it was allowed. So we had a business owner who was a conforming use, and through that planning function, we took that conforming use away. And regardless of what we may think individually, the implication then is that we think this is an inappropriate use for Kent because we took it out. But 20 years from now, it won't matter what we all thought. What's going to matter is what was written down. I think it would be good as a general practice that we have regulations for things that we think are good. And if on a planning situation, if we believe that it is not a good use for the town, then we could leave it out and he will be grandfathered in and he'll have to go to ZBA, and we will have abandoned our responsibility in terms of providing regulations for the uses we think are appropriate. That may be fine. I know you're concerned about the ability to write a good regulation. I will say that based on my experience over the past couple of years, I do have the utmost confidence that P&Z could very well write an excellent regulation that I think would serve this type of use well. It's a tourist-based use, which I think is something we all feel is appropriate for Kent. We all feel that this use in this location is great. It's possible it could be a similar use in other locations that would also benefit Kent. So in our zoning function, I feel like it'd be appropriate to take those steps. I just want to say that.
Well, David, I think that's a respectable position. Adam, how about you?
Look, I share all the concerns you have about writing regulation, about what it opens up, the unintended consequences of what it opens up. But I agree with everything David said also. I think that we can write an appropriate regulation, but we're really going to have to look at it and consider what we're writing, and really think out to the future, and to make sure that we're not writing something that's going to have unintended consequences that that our town would prefer not to happen. So I do think that I think by not doing it, we put Club Getaway, we put David in a difficult situation if he wants to do anything or alter anything. I do want to make a clarification though, because there was a regulation that we were saying that Club Getaway fit into that was removed, and it was inadvertently removed, not realizing that's where Club Getaway fell, but it didn't fall into it really. It just kind of barely, it didn't really touch on everything that Club Getaway does at all. It didn't encompass, the regulation didn't encompass what Club Getaway does. And that's where really all this started. But I do think we have a responsibility to move forward, especially because I think Club Getaway wants us to do that.
Okay, thank you. Adam. Yep.
Wes, this is Alice. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I totally believe we should spend as much time, energy, and effort to write a regulation. It is shirking our responsibility not to. And that may mean we have to go back and look at why we shirked it or why we changed it, and be sure we don't put future zoning regulations in that position again. And secondly, I just strongly believe that this unintended consequences or not, this is our job, is land use and how land is used in the town of Kent.
Thank you, Alice. Yep. Karen?
Well, I've been sort of sitting on the fence on this. However, given what the other commissioners have said, I'd like to keep an open mind. And if everyone's willing to work hard on coming up with a suitable regulation, I think it's going to take us some time. This is a unique situation. I'm willing to go along with that. I guess I don't really know 100% what happened, how this came out of our regulations. And in particular, if it was because we were calling it a camp, and now maybe the owner wants us to call it or craft something that talks about a resort. And that's my concern.
Right. Yeah. Daryl, how about you?
Pretty much feel the same way as I did last time. When we have such a large, impactful, non-conforming use that's, willing to come forward and work with us to become conforming, it just seems to be a neater encapsulation of our, land use applications, our regulations. We have the control, and it's just more consistent, and that always seems to be the goal, obviously, of planning and zoning, is to bring as many things into conformity as possible. So philosophically, I think it works, and I think we've, started to review a couple options as to how to do it and need to go back to it.
Okay, terrific. And finally, Mark, what do you think?
Well, I don't really think that we'd be shirking our responsibilities if we didn't adopt a regulation. I mean, we'd be making a determination that we don't want to see similar complexes in Kent. So I don't know that that's what everybody's view is, but I mean, if that is the view, I don't think we're shirking our responsibilities by not adopting regulation. We're exercising our responsibilities by not adopting regulation. As far as, do I want to see other similar facilities in Kent? I mean, frankly, personally, no. I have no problem with Club Getaway. I think it's operated extremely responsibly. I'm fine with the baseline that they came to us with. But, personally, I would just as soon not see large complexes that have the potential for a lot of traffic, a lot of noise, and neighbors constantly having issues with it. So I'm fine with not writing a regulation. But the sense of the commission is that we should. I'm sort of sick of hearing about this, but
Right.
okay.
All right, thank you, Mark. So hearing everybody, it looks like we should pursue this. And probably the best way to pursue it is by a subcommittee to craft pertinent regulations and to study basically the land in Kent and what areas might be subjected to this. I think we need to know all of this before we can meaningfully write a regulation. So we've got on the agenda under subcommittees, looking into further work, and we've got the EV coming up, which is going to be a change to the regulation. So I think probably we should go at it that way with the subcommittee, as we have with all other regulations like the POCD, et cetera. Would everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
Do we want to toss a couple things into a subcommittee, or have one for that, one for EVs, and one for a POCD rewrite?
For what?
I
Are
mean,
there other subcommittees that we've thought that we need to create?
well, I was wondering if we're going to have several that fall out of the POCD work that we would be standing up, or like this would be just this, we do this, and then other subcommittees might pop up as necessary for other regulation work.
Well, we've got a pretty tall order of rewrites. And this just kind of adds to the list.
But, Wes, this is Alice again. Help me remember, everybody, I was there. We did not form a subcommittee, did we, to write the regulation for the brewery? Or did we?
That's a good question. David, you can answer perhaps that.
I'm pretty sure we didn't.
Yeah.
I can answer that. We did not have a
Yeah.
subcommittee for the, for
Right.
that regulation.
Well, I mean, we can do it through further meetings.
Right.
It just seems to be pretty taxing on each and every meeting to go through this again. I don't know. I don't know how people feel about that. We also have the subdivision regulations that we have put off. And that's actually a very important one. That's very comprehensive. And Adam, you and I
I was going to say, we have a subcommittee for that.
are on the hook there. Right.
Can we utilize Glenn to shortcut a lot of this and provide us with options so
Right.
we can make efficient use of our time? I mean,
Yes.
obviously, he has a great feel for our town after all the work he's done. He's heard our concerns. It just seems like he could be the consolidating force and help us out here.
I think that's right.
I think that's a great idea. I think Glenn is he's smart. Like Daryl said, he knows our town well. He has a good feel for it, and I think he can really look at things and have a broad view. He really looks at how a regulation that's being written can impact other things. So in other areas, and will bring those concerns to us.
Right.
We can even take his lead as to whether he'd prefer to do all of them at once or, individually, but, he may prefer to consolidate this next batch of rewrites or new rights.
I think we probably have the budget to do that. So would it be the consensus of the commission to approach Glenn? And
Seems like a great idea.
I think it seems like a great idea because we've got the electrical vehicles. We've got four or five different rewrites on the table or creating rights. So to just have a subcommittee for each, I think would actually be more of a problem than to just do it all together.
yeah,
Well, so something that we have, as we finish a POCD, what immediately follows finishing POCD is a review and possible rewrite
Of regulations.
or editing of our regulations. And
Right.
we are on the cusp of completing the POCD.
Right.
And at that point, we will be and we have the money in the budget already for rewriting the regulations. And I mean, honestly, who would be better, to do this than Glenn, because he helped us write the POCD. He knows the changes in the regulations maybe better than we do. And he helped us rewrite the previous regulations. So maybe all these changes should be done all at once as we rewrite the
Right.
regulations for our town as we finish the POCD, which again, we're
right.
right there, just finishing it now.
It just elongates it. You're right, Adam. You know, we can combine it with the subdivision. I mean, we're gonna have to get into that at some point, and that's a big one.
So it seems like we should look at all these regulations that, you know, the 4 or 5 that are on the table now, and but we're gonna spend money to do it now. Why aren't we just holding off a few months and spending the money with the rewrite of the regulations?
All right.
On 6B1, we talk about recent legislative changes. Remind me how big a job that is. Ty, do you know?
Yeah, so that was on the agenda. I think Matt had mentioned it and he had some concern, and I included a little guide in your shared files of what I've been using
Right.
regarding the legislation.
Right.
And actually, we recently went to a session with Mike Ziska at the Northwest COG, and it really does as like a summary of what had happened in the legislation and, you know, what had to be done by the end of the year. And quite honestly, it seems that Kent is in excellent shape with regard to all the new legislation. You acted on what you needed to act on. Some of the stuff you had already addressed previously. The only recommendation I really would have that was brought to our attention through Mike was when you did opt out. That's something that probably should be recorded in your regulations. So when you do a public hearing to accept some of the new changes, maybe the notation that you opted out of the couple things that you did, and you did it properly and officially, but to record them in your regulations document is something that's definitely recommended. So yeah, there's not a lot for you to do unless you have very specific questions or things that you want to address. But overall, you're in better shape than most towns are.
So under the same logic, we probably don't need a subcommittee. We just need a list and see it and act on it.
Yeah, you acted on most of the things that you had to.
All right, so I guess we can move on from 5B1. We'll ask Glenn and Ty, would you mention that to Glenn? That we're thinking of him?
Absolutely. Did you want me to ask him for a quote for, subdivision regs and the, resort/club regulations? Or do you want to, come up with a list and kind of put it in front of him?
Well, maybe we come up with a list. I mean, it's a lot. It's going to be a lot of hours.
Right. And I'm not sure, to be honest, I'm not sure how the town operates with going out to bid for jobs that might be large, so if you do little jobs, obviously you have money in the budget for consultant fees. I don't know what the limit is if the town requires a bid for something bigger, like you may have done for your POCD or something like that.
Yeah, we didn't go out to bid on the POCD, I don't believe, did we?
I
don't
no
think.
idea. Okay,
We had three. We had 3
We
candidates.
did.
We
you
switched
did.
recommendations.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think we did the previous POCD went out to bid. When we did the regulation rewrite following that, that went out to bid. We had 3 bids for that. I don't know that we ever, I think all the bids were close and we chose the person that we thought was best, and that's who we've been working with. So maybe we have to do that, but
Yeah, I mean, we can get a list together and put it in front of him to get an idea of what we're talking about, and then I can find out what the town policy is and we can go from there.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Great. All right, so let's move on to 5B2, the electric vehicle charging stations. So I liked most of what Glenn put together on that. I think this is something that we probably should move on as quick as we can, as there are some applications um, this change in the regulation. And of course, it's going to take some time to take it through the process. We've now spent some time on this. I 100% agree that outside of residential, that every application is by special permit. I think that's exactly right. I'm not at all certain about item number 2, about mandating that these be installed in new construction. I think 10% is perhaps arbitrary. I think the additional parking is somewhat arbitrary. I'm basically opposed to mandates. So I mean, that's my personal view. But so that is something we should discuss. The rest of it's pretty clear cut, and hopefully we can hash this out and then send this out to start setting up our public hearings.
So is that something, are we going to discuss this now, or this is something that?
I think we should, Adam. Yeah,
Okay.
I think if we can get this out of here and into the process, all the better, because this is something that needs to be done. So
I agree.
this would be a separate item that will go for a regulation change. We're not trying to lump it into all these other items that are going to take months, if not years.
So I read the regulation, and the only thing that actually stuck out to me was this exact same thing that you mentioned was, a mandate requiring installation of chargers in new construction, which I think is pretty premature. And if somebody wants to do it, they can do it themselves. It's not terribly expensive if you have an electric car to have something like that installed. So the rest of the regulation, I see for the most part is pretty good.
The mandate's a business mandate, right? Not a residential mandate.
Yeah, but so for a business mandate, they don't all have a great deal of parking spaces. Are we going to tell all businesses that you have to put in chargers?
No, I mean, it is
Smart
for,
enough will do it themselves. They'll do it. They're going to do it anyway. But
no, it is for new work, and I understand that, but again, I'm not in favor of requiring it. They can certainly do it.
yeah,
So I think well, I agree. Excuse me. I guess I would be supportive of a mandate if it's it seems like the bottom mandate suggestion was that it's really conduit and a panel capable of future support. And the idea was if you're going to be doing significant construction and things are torn up, the cost to install a conduit is very low, whereas the cost to do it later will be significantly higher. And since we're in theory thinking about zoning looking to the future as electric cars continue to take a larger percentage, if we think about if 10 years from now, some of the requirements that are coming out of a lot of states where they're going to try to go 100% EV by 2035 or sooner, I suspect the people in 10 years who might be buying these locations or retrofitting will find the fact that a conduit is there pretty compelling, rather than having not taken the opportunity to do it when it was relatively cheap and easy during new construction. I would not support a mandate to require the charger be installed. I think we're just talking about the ready part. So a conduit and a panel large enough to support it, which I would be surprised if that were not already kind of a standard for any sort of significant commercial construction. But the conduit is really the thing that I think has value and minimal impact as a regulation.
I think that's a good middle ground. Just as we require in new subdivisions that they put in underground services, this is the same type of thing. Anybody else?
Excuse me, Wes. Dan Robertson has his hand up. This isn't a public hearing, but I don't know if he's somebody you are familiar with.
Dan, how are you?
Hey, good. I apologize if I'm violating protocol. I was just going to comment on the electric vehicle stations in terms of we're seeing, I work for Artist Energy Solutions. We're seeing EV stations by different organizations, towns, access to grant money. For example, the Kent School got incentives from Eversource for the program. I think if you're able to pass that regulation, then people can make the choice of whether they want to install or not install. And I like the idea of planning for future conduit because excavation trenching after the fact is a big deal. But I think at least changing that regulation as quickly as you can so the incentives can be accessed. For example, the Eversource incentives are running low. They'll probably be in another round next year. They'll cover up to 50% of the charger, up to 100% of the site make ready, like the electrical, the excavation, refill. It's not going to cover everything, but it will help those businesses and organizations maybe make that choice to go forward versus mandating it if that regulation changes. So that was my only comment. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Dan, that's very helpful. Thank you for your testimony here. Is Glenn here? No.
No, he didn't feel he needed to be present tonight.
Okay, all right. So, and it was simply number 2 that I had an issue with, and I certainly can see the usefulness of requiring underground conduits to be installed in new work. And if that can be made clear, I would be prepared to move on with this.
So I don't know, do we need to move that we ask Glenn to, I guess, finalize a regulation with the first option of those 3 in section 2, and then we gather feedback from our community and see if people feel strongly about it? Maybe that would, if people are okay with that, maybe that is fine for the next steps.
Yeah. So are you suggesting that he revise it, we see it again next month and then act on it, or?
I think we can accept the changes. It sounds like we're all happy with them, and then just the pink box or beige box, that he just make it clear that the only requirement is that EV capable spots are put in at the 10%.
Right.
That no charger is required. So that way it has the conduit. That's basically the thing we want to make sure happens. And then we go to the public with that.
So can you make that motion?
So I'll move that we accept Glenn's changes as the regulation reads now, with the one modification that in section, I guess it's item number 2, that it's clarified to show that only EV capable spots are mandated under the regulation and not items 2 and 3 in that box.
Here a second.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, why don't we vote? All in favor of accepting Raise your hand, please. Okay, looks like motion is carried. So Ty, would you communicate that to Glenn and then start the so we need to set a public hearing at this point?
Yep, when you're ready to, you need to, yes.
Okay, well, based on our motion and the understanding of item 2,
Mhm.
we can get the documentation and then set a public hearing for next regular meeting.
Okay, that will also be your POCD public hearing is during that meeting as well.
Well, wonderful. Okay. So, I mean, that wouldn't be bad. I mean, those are 2 important items to go to public. Yeah.
Do you want to add on the language to include in the new regulations, the opt-outs that you've already accepted,
Yes.
the notations?
Correct.
Is everybody fine with that?
Yes.
Okay, I guess we need a motion to put the EV on a public hearing for next regular meeting.
So I will move
make-
still
go ahead.
public hearing for the EV regulation at our next regular meeting. November, what was that? November 8th, I think? No, 10th.
Second.
All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay, so we'll set that public hearing.
As a side note, if anyone's thinking about installing an electric charger, you get Eversource is giving you $500 for the charger and $500 for wiring right now. So if anyone's thinking about getting an electric car,
So that's residentially.
residential, yeah, if you don't have a charger yet.
Well, that's not a bad deal.
It's not a bad deal at all.
Not a bad deal.
You just have to agree to sign up for their load shedding. So if they have a day when they're dire for power, they're allowed to turn off your charger or turn it down at least. But it's happened like once or twice in the last 4 or 5 years. So
I guess that's especially true out in California.
yeah, we don't have as many problems here in Kent.
So moving on to new business. 6B1, that creation of a subcommittee. I think we agreed that we would list those changes and then put them on for a public hearing. Ty, you can list those and send those to us, and we could still set the public hearing now and then review them at the public hearing.
Not sure if I'm following you. So
So we haven't seen that list or of
of the new legislation?
actually I'm sorry, we passed that. We
Mhm.
yeah, we accepted that. So
Yeah.
so we do know about that, and so we can put that.
I think you've done a good job with the new legislation. I think now you're talking about the subdivision regs and the resort regs. And as you discussed, I'll reach out to Glenn about those and start moving forward. So it doesn't sound like a subcommittee is in order at all anymore.
No.
Okay,
So at the next public hearing, we'd hear the POCD, we'd hear the electric vehicle,
Mhm.
hear the opt-out.
Just the agreement to add the opt-out to that language. Yeah,
Right, right.
and that's it. And then we'll forge ahead in the direction that you just decided.
Okay. So staff report. Anything to report?
No, not too much. It's been somewhat quiet. I guess I got here at the right time. Not a lot going on. Still working on that job description update.
Right.
The Board of Selectmen agreed to, it seems as if they agreed to make a decision at their next meeting, which will be on the 20th.
Okay,
Maybe we should all
yes, I think,
be on the Zoom of that meeting,
yeah,
Yes.
or as many of us that can be.
right.
When is that meeting?
The 20th,
At what time, Ty?
6:30.
It's 30, okay.
Will you let
October
us
20th,
know,
correct?
Yep.
Will you let us know where on the agenda will likely end up? I know those meetings can go long.
Forever.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy of the agenda once it's out.
Terrific, terrific. All right, then report from POCD subcommittee. I think we said we would leave that subcommittee open until it's all signed, sealed, and delivered.
So the only one question I have of the commissioners is for this upcoming public hearing, I'm going to be legally noticing it shortly. And I need to legally notice the specific location as part of the statutory requirements. And currently we're on Zoom, but by the time that meeting is coming around, we're going to be having the opportunity to be hybrid. It'll be, one of the first hybrid meetings, so it'll all be new to all of us. I don't know if you want to take that risk and try, give it a shot hybrid, or do you want to just stay with your traditional Zoom? But I kind of need to know a decision one way or the other now, so I can put it in the legal notice.
That was an interesting way to put it, our traditional Zoom.
Well, it's been several years now.
Times change, huh? I would be a fan of not trying something new for a nice big public meeting, just in case it goes horribly wrong, but.
Yeah. I worry about that as well. I'm excited about the new room, but I worry about such an important meeting being the new experimental group on that.
And it's also other public hearings as well. So our meeting, I mean, I would be very anxious to get back in a room together and go hybrid. But I think November 10th is probably not the time to do it.
Okay.
Does everyone else concur with that?
I agree with that. I'd like to get back to in-person meetings, which would be a hybrid meeting. I know Connie does them quite a bit. Now they got something, the owl or something like that, that you can put on the table and you can have a hybrid meeting. It shows everybody.
Right.
They've done it, and they've done it for some town meetings for the Conservation Commission. They did it just last night. So
Yeah.
the night before. So I know it works.
Right. So maybe that's a great path. A December meeting may be our first in-person meeting with hybrid.
Okay.
Then the Affordable Housing Subcommittee, David? It's disbanded, is it?
Yeah, I think, didn't we end it last meeting?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I think you were waiting for the Board of Selectmen's comments, or their final, I don't know, there was one final thing that you were waiting for, and then you were gonna disband at this meeting.
Yeah, yes, so we could disband because it was accepted at the selectmen's meeting. I remember Jocelyn told us all. I missed the end of it. But I think we can safely say we're done at this point.
Great.
Do we need a motion?
I think you do.
I will move we disband the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. Problem solved.
Terrific.
Second.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of disbandment? All right, David, you're officially off the hook here.
Alice too.
Yeah. Alice, all right.
Well, we have to vote, right?
Well, we
We
did.
didn't actually vote.
Is this true?
Yes,
Okay,
you got to call the vote. We
okay.
had the motion, but
It looks to me like it was carried.
I was going to say no and just keep the subcommittee alive. Or that was a good experience, I will say.
Terrific. All right, so administrative permits. It looks like it's getting a little more active, which is good. Keeps the cash coming in. And the quarterly newsletter. Sorry, I didn't look at that.
Not much in it.
Yeah. And then the budget, looks like we're in good shape. All right. Ty, you wanted to go into executive session, I think. So do I hear a motion that we would do that?
moved.
Seconded.
All right, so at 7:52, we'll go into executive session.
All right. I will move that we follow the advice of our attorneys with respect to the 3 items of litigation in front of the commission.
Second.
All in favor? All right, well said.
This might be our shortest meeting
I
ever
think
with me.
it does set a record, and it's just after 8. That's not bad.
See, it's
Awesome.
all Ty. She shows up and all of a sudden meetings are over.
Yeah.
All right,
I'll move we adjourn.
all right. Thank you, David. Your second.
Second.
Second. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Have a great night. Thank you, guys.
And